Hey guys, this is Michael from EAKCrewProductions, and today I wanted to bring you a little something different. Um, as I play Yu-Gi-Oh, I don't like to just play the game. I like to try to be good at it and understand the different things about Yu-Gi-Oh and what makes it the way it is and why certain people win. So the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh, of course, is winning. That's what everybody strives for. So I went and I made a bubble map here. And what this bubble map does is it comes out into all these different categories, but this is kind of messy, so I decided to organize it into a well thought out list. And so the bubble map from winning went to top tier decks, Saki cards, skill, side deck choices, good cards in general, luck, of course, the staples that people run, the draw power you need, the tech choices, hand traps. Oh, and I just realized it's missing from this sheet, but it's on the other one, is engines. Uh, so we'll just look back at that when we get to engines. So let's just go over this real quick. So some of the top tier decks, and these aren't in any kind of order or anything like that, would be Windups, Girgas, Chaos Dragons, Heroes, Agents, Six Sams, Dino Rabbit, Dark World, Inzectors, Mermills. So this list is just a deck or a list of the most competitive decks out there in the meta right now. So obviously this is a very diverse format where a lot of different decks can top, and you could you could top with a deck that's not one of these. But if you're piloting one of these decks, you have a much better chance, and we are striving for winning. So we want to give ourselves the best percentages out there. So boom, one of these guys. Then we have the Saki card list. So these are cards in the game that pretty much you can top deck into, and as long as you fit the condition for, like, and there's nothing stopping you. Like for Monster Reborn, of course, Necro Valley could be stopping you, and for BLS, you might not have a Light and Dark to remove. But if you do, and if there's not a Necro Valley, then you have Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, BLS, Black Luster Soldier, Envoy, and Monster Reborn. These are just those kind of cards that you can top deck into and swing back into the game and completely win. So I put them on the Seki card list. You're probably going to want to run all of these. And then we have skill. So skill is something that a player needs to really get ahead in this game. And so what I put that under, what I put under there would be practice. So you have to practice to be good at the game of Yu-Gi-Oh. You have to know the ins and out. And when you practice, you have to play against actually other good opponents. If you're playing bad people when you're practicing, you are going to retain something from there, but your skill level would go up a lot quicker if you actually played good opponents who make good plays against you. Playing against bad people constantly will stunt your growth. Review. So review, it would be like recorded matches or something along the lines of that. So you can go back and you can watch yourself duel. You can understand where you misplay and maybe where your mindset needs some changing. I think that's very good. A lot of people do. A lot of people should do this. I feel like almost none do. Although you can see that this is something that works well in sports as well. Football players watch their old games so that they can review and become better. And it'll help you notice misplays and stop doing them. Third on there is insight. So I think you need the thoughts of other good players to help you as well. Of course, you're going to have your own ideas and you're going to think them up as they come along. But sometimes when you're doing something, you don't quite see it from all the angles, and the insight from other good players can really help. This kind of ties into review. I would almost recommend watching it with another player, watching your review, and this way you can get it from two different angles, because you're now watching it from the viewer instead of the player point, which is good because those two viewpoints are completely different. So you might notice some things that you could have done, but the player next to you has a different brain than you, and he might notice a whole set of different things that you could have done. So, two things that kind of rule with each other. And then rulings, of course. Rulings, something very good to know because it helps you with misunderstandings that you have. Maybe you weren't sure that you could activate something when you thought when you wanted to, and because of it you didn't, and so you lose the duel. Maybe there was something that you could have done but you had no idea because of a ruling. maybe somebody rolls, does something that's completely wrong, but you don't know because you can't correctly understand the wording of a card. And then, of course, there's timing. Once you become good at rulings, you will also have a tighter grasp on timing and how to make cards lose their timing effects. Like, of course, the obvious ones that everyone knows because it's flooded the Yu-Gi-Oh community is Raikou with Light Pulsar, making it miss timing. But there's other things in the Yu-Gi-Oh community that we need to focus on other than just spreading out little stuff like that. Because now everyone thinks, oh, Raikou, flip, middle timing, right? But what's more important is why it happens, which a lot of players don't know. Or they say they know, and they'll give you the reason for it, and it'll be right, but then they can't apply it to anything else. Okay, then we have the side deck. Now, I didn't want to really just list a bunch of cards here because the side deck, it really depends on the deck you're playing. But I thought I'd maybe go into the current meta. So Macrocosmos, because it really stops a lot of. Well, for that we're look back up here, and it kills Chaos Dragons. It can hurt agents. It can stop some 6am plays. Stops Dark Worlds, it hurts Insectors, and stops Mirror Mills. So, knocking out a few of those decks up there to complete Oblivion makes Macro a very good card. We've got Thunder King, and that's going to stop with the Girgas, slow down the Chaos, slow down the Agents, slow down the 6am, slow down Dino Rabbit. So, really good there. King Tiger Wangu. Yeah, I think he's a really underrated side deck card. He's a pretty strong beater, standing at, I think it's 1700 attack, with his ability to destroy anything under 1400 or less. So, really great card. He destroys windups if they don't go Magician Shark, and even if they do go Magician Shark, as long as you start out first and summon him. Then, of course, we got Royal Decree, just because there's so many troll decks that run around. It's a really solid card in the side. It stops you from losing to Chain Burn, different decks like that. Light and Shadow, Imprisoning Mirrors, both good cards. You probably won't see too many Light Imprisoning, but Shadow Imprisoning is very good this format. A lot of dark decks running around. And then, of course, we've got the Gozen Match, because Gozen Match is so versatile and can be used against just a plethora of decks, really shut them down. So if you can run that in your deck, that's phenomenal. Then we've got just good cards in general. Thunder King, we've gone over that. Forbidden Lance, I see it's a card that's commonly used in some decks nowadays. It's so versatile because it's an offensive and defensive card. Then we've got Compulse, which is pretty obvious because it gets rid of Synchros and XYZs like it's nobody's business. Tragodia, he'll help keep you alive, and then he can become a big beater. He's an excellent XYZ monster, Synchro monster, and he can steal opponents' monsters. So Trigodia's pretty broke in this format. And just in general, Book of Moon, great card. That says Boo to Moon for some, I don't know why, but Book of Moon, great card. Put something down. It's like one of the only neg 1 cards that's actually great. Mind Control, seeing a lot more play these formats since we can XYZ now, making it a little easier. Snatch an opponent's monster, XYZ, so they can't have it in the graveyard, and then start beating them with whatever you made. Gore's great card. He stops OTKs, and he can bring the swing of the game back in your favor. Granmole, because he's pretty much the monster form of Compulse, but he can be used over and over again. Gale, cutting things in half and then becoming a tuner as well. Phenomenal. Avarice, used in many decks, helps with the recycle, and it's a +1. So Birdman, I don't think he gets as much play as he should, but he really helps out with some synergy, and he's a win more card, so it's like, oh hey, I've got this play, but oh hey, now it's an OTK play. Luck factors into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, but you can't really control luck. However, luck can control you. It decides who's going first and what you're going to top deck. So if you believe in luck, go ahead and try to get yourself luckier somehow, because you need those on your side. Staples. So these things are just cards that are used in pretty much any deck. Mirror Force, Torrential Tribute, Warning, Solemn Judgment, MSTs, and the Saki cards from the Saki card list. Those cards are pretty much universal, and they just help you win. You don't necessarily need them, but they've proven over a testament of time that they are great cards and that they deserve to have a spot reserved for them in most decks. So that's what they go for, and you're probably going to play them if you want a winning deck. We have draw power cards. So these cards are something that you really need because you have to find the combo pieces for your deck, and that's what happens for you is draw power. So for draw power, we've got Pot of Duality, which is a great card. Had to be knocked down to 2 because 3 was allowing decks that had really no draw power within themselves to attain a massive amount of draw power. Now we have an Allure Darkness, great card, helps those dark decks, can usually be put in with a Pot of Duality as well, so phenomenal. Upstart Goblin, not really a card that's used in too many different types of decks, but it can be used in 6 Sams and of course those trolley decks. I would even say Dark World Turbo as well runs them, and you can even run it in Turbo Blackwings, I suppose. And we have Dark World Dealings, which is a great card. And you can use this in Fabled, you can use this in Dark World, you can use this in Dark World Fables, you can use this in a Troll deck, your Exodia decks, things like that. Then Day of Peace, which is one of those trolly kind of ones as well, but it can also be used in decks like Monarchs, seeing as how it'll allow the Monarchs to draw a card, and it'll stop your opponent from attacking, and then maybe they can also drop down the card D, draw 2, so having drawn a much bigger amount of cards that turn, and you can't attack them. So great stuff. And we have some tech choices down here. These are just cards that you'd run maybe one of in your deck that isn't the archetype that you're running. Is something that maybe your opponent isn't expecting to see. You're playing Lightsworn, so you put a face down and they go, that's a Raikou, or a Gardna, even possibly. They attack into it, and up flips a Penguin Soldier, returning 2 cards instead of 1 like they had planned on. Granmole, kind of gone over him. He's like a compulse, great card. Fairy Box, it's a card that they don't see coming, and they're kind of iffy on whether or not to attack because it is a 50-50 chance, so it might bait them into an attack. Mirror Wall, great card. It's not a counter trap, but because it alters attack and defense, you can flip it in damage calculation. So it's a great card that you can then keep on the field if you want to for the cost of, I think, 1,000 life points or something along the lines of that. T-Roar, great card to attack in different decks. Something like Watts can use it. Anything where you need a few monsters for your setup, can you run this card so that you can protect them and then get it out. Snowman, great card, face down and then flipped. Had more play during Dino Rabbit days because it was able to get rid of the Logia, not the Dolka of course, but the Logia. And he's seeing less play now, but I think it's still a good tech choice. Birdman, great tech choice. Like I said, he's a win more card, turns some great plays into OTKs, and if you splash him in win decks, I mean, he even come out to a 19 beat stick, and of course he's a tuner, and he can also be used for that level 3 overlay. Maybe you summon Tour Guide, get out another Tour Guide, return 1 Tour Guide, special summon Birdman, overlay. Next turn you have another Tour Guide play. Great card. Hand Traps, those are your Effect Veilers, Maxis, and DD Crows. Effect Veilers, stop your opponent's big plays where he's using a bunch of effects. Maxi, this is one of those cards where your opponent can decide to go all in or stop. It'll allow you to get more draw power. Great card. And then DD Crow, it's a card that I'm not seeing too much use in the meta, but it does have use, and who knows, we might see more play of it later on. Then of course down here, where I forgot to write it from the other bubble list, we'll just go over to here, is engines. So decks need engines to help them run faster, and what we have here is like the 6 Sam engine, where we have asceticisms, and then gateways and uniteds. These help the 6-AMs boom, 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 boom go through their deck with the added addition of draw power. We have the heroes, which is really just Stratos, E-calls, recruitment, not recruitment, but reinforcements of the army, stuff like that. Then we have the recruiters, which are your generic searchers, like Mother Grizzly, I believe it's called, Tomato, Giant Rat, stuff like that. We have the Lightsworn engine, which is what Chaos Dragons use, and of course Lightsworns themselves, different decks like that. I personally made Lightsworn 6 Samurais. It's pretty fun. That would be like 3 Lila, 3 Raiko. Then we have the plants, very popular engine, but it's just not up to snuff as much as it used to be, so it doesn't really see that much play. And then an older engine is the spy engine, which doesn't see that much play either, although some people do it because it's spy does have a big booty, that 2000, so maybe their first play can't always get over it, and if they do attack into it, which they're not going to expect it to be a spy if you're not playing Gravekeepers, and then it flips up, you get that 4-star summon, and next turn you can make Shockmaster if you have another 4-star, or you can just go into a 2 material 4-star Exceed. So, you know, it's an older engine, it's a little outdated, but it can still get its plays off, and it still searches 1 card out of your deck. So that's just a little bit of a meta analysis that I'm kind of doing. I'm trying to understand Yu-Gi-Oh! With a broader grasp, and then zone in and detail it out. And this is boom, winning. You know, what it does it take in Yu-Gi-Oh! Boom, and then we have these fine points, these giant ones, which are just consume all these different smaller sections, and then we zoom out into those things so that we can get a greater detail, and then of course the reorganization so that we can process the information better. And the next step honestly would be trying to apply the majority of these decks and cards into the fastest engines, the best hand traps, the best staples, the needed staples, the Saki cards that we want to run, increasing our skill level, finding the best side deck for our given meta, knowing what tech choices are the best so that we can catch our opponents off guard, knowing which draw power is going to help us the most. Oh, there's also Destiny Draw as well. Knowing which cards, although maybe aren't tech choices or ran with our archetype, but more like spells and traps that are just good that we should be running of because they'll help us get rid of different things like Compulse, or will stop us from getting OTK like Trigodia and Gores that can turn a match around in our favor. Luck, we can only hope for that. And then really, what deck are we going to pilot? Do we want to just try to take these different things and formulate our own deck and try to be an original? Or do we want to be an original within a structure that's already built? Maybe we run one of these decks and we make it original. We add all these different cards that we want. We make it all super techy and then we win. Or maybe that doesn't work. Maybe we have to take one of these decks and we can't tech it out so crazily, but we can add really good consistent cards. We can get a really nice draw power. We can tech in maybe 1 card. We can add some hand traps that will really stop our opponents. We can add in those great staples. We can increase our skill levels by playing the deck constantly so that we know its ins and outs, and then we can make a side deck that helps it. And it's very important about side decks is that when you're side decking, you want to side deck against the meta, but you also want to side deck against what people are going to side deck against you. So if you're playing a certain matchup like Chaos Dragons and you know they're going to have just a plethora of Macrocosmos, you want to side in more MSTs, maybe a Dust Tornado even. It's just small things like that, you know. You're playing Chaos, you're playing Chainburn because you're kind of trolly, but I mean Chainburn in all rights has the ability to top tournaments, and win. So, I mean, I can't hate on the deck too much, but you know they're going to send in those Royal Decrees because they know what Chain Burn is. So you're going to add in Double Cyclones, Mystical Space Typhoons. You got to get rid of all that stuff, you know. So it comes down to different things, you know. Are we going to become an original? Are we going to try to tech out a deck, one of these decks, so that we keep maybe its founding principles, but we've made it our own little thing? Or are we just going to try to make it the most consistent build possible, even though the cards are known to the format? I mean, these are just the questions that I'm looking for, what I'm trying to answer. Maybe you guys can have an even better grasp than me on it, but I'm going to continue my search. I'm going to delve deeper into this project, and I'd love your guys' help on it. But anyways, that's been Michael from EAK Crew Productions. I'll see you guys later. Please like, comment, subscribe. Peace.